My name is Stephanie Tenney, and this is my technology project for a lesson in my unit on ancient Greece. The topic for this audio lesson and PowerPoint podcast lesson is ancient Greek art. So we'll begin. When we discuss ancient Greece, we're talking about a timeline that looks to almost be moving backwards to zero. As you can see in this slide, we go from BCE to ACE. We move from the 8th century forward to zero, and then we begin the modern day millennium as we know it. Now, there are three main periods of art that we're going to discuss. The first is the Archaic period, which goes from the 8th century BCE to about the 7th century. Essentially, this covers about 200 years. In this period, the majority of art is made from stone carvings and depicts three main figures. The first figure is the standing nude, which obviously depicts a standing form, usually male. The figure has a significant amount of detail in the muscles, form, and shape of the body because artists wanted to show that they knew the shape of human body and how to create that within their art and sculptures. The second form is the standing draped girl, which is obviously a female form with some ornate clothing or other items as part of the statue or picture. The standing girl was not often displayed in public areas because the statues of girls showed female nudity in one form or another. In Greek society at this time, public female nudity of any kind was frowned upon and not allowed on display. The third main figure is the seated woman and was also not often on public display for the same reason as the standing draped girl. Again, female nudity was not often allowed in the public sphere within any form. The statues in this period were very detailed and displayed the craftsmanship and ability of the sculptor. The statues were made to depict the ideal Greek with beauty, honor, and piety. These kinds of statues were used in memorials, temples, and even as grave markers as we know them. The second period of Greek art is also known as the Classical period, which extends from the 6th century to the 5th century BCE. It's marked by what's known as a revolution, a type of revolution in style and use of the art of the period, as well as a change in the skill level. The statues of this period were more ornate and detailed in both the human form and in the clothing. This area of statues depicts a type of movement in the clothing of a statue and gives more natural poses to the subjects, most of whom were meant to be real people. Statues were used oftentimes for decoration at this time, and their creation was commissioned mostly by wealthy citizens who wanted to display the statues in their home, like I said, as a type of decoration. Also at this time, funeral statues evolved, and they were meant to look like forms of regular people, so the statues became less rigid. The funeral statues and carvings began to depict more than just one person and started to include pictures of the individual with family members as well as the individual in their afterlife. This period in history is also a time when the naming of statues came about, and historians have begun to use, or when they have discovered the statues, started to use the names of the statues to decipher the purpose of the statue. The third and final period of Greek art that we're discussing is called the Hellenistic period, which took place in the 4th century BCE. This period is often marked by the diversity that came with the expansion of the empire. The skill of the sculptors increased even more, and the detail of the sculptors became almost lifelike. The sculptors became more naturalistic in their depictions and began to include forms of everyday men, women, and children, as well as animals and domestic scenes of family and religious experiences. Now, like I said, this period of art is very diverse because of the expansion of the empire, meaning that there were other Hellenistic areas such as Egypt that Greek art started to gain more of an influence from. The images shifted from idealistic images of the perfect citizen and the gods into images of everyday people. The images of the gods, though, were still created and used in temples and sacred areas, as well as graves and other such memorials, but the emphasis was placed more on showing the everyday man. Now, in the next couple of slides, we're going to take a look at some examples. In this slide, I just want you to try and identify which period these statues are from and kind of give a reason or so as to why you think that these statues belong to the period you selected. We'll do the same thing with these statues. Identify which period these are from and why you selected that period. Again, identify which period these statues are from and why you selected that period. If you take a look through this lesson, you can go ahead and get a better idea about Greek art. For next class, we'll go ahead and get started getting ready thinking about Greek government. So maybe get an idea of what types of things you think constitute government.